Welcome to the OK Let's Learn podcast. This is two podcasts in one. One where we dive into tons of interesting topics, and another where we dive into great stories and books. My name is Kevin O'Keefe. So today, let's learn all about the unlikely tale of Chase and Finnegan, the book. We are reading together this book. This is one of the many books in our book club series. This is Book 8, Episode 3. Before you continue, you want to read chapters 7 through 13, pages 36 through 83. This will be commentary, thoughts, going through what's happened, and I'm reading this book out loud to my class, and we have a lot of thoughts, we had a lot of commentary, and let's just get started. Where we left off was this lady by the name of Basma was taking Chase's mother away on a leash, and like I said, you've got to be kidding me. What does Chase end up hearing from Basma? Oh, I know, you're going to miss your mama. She'll be back soon. Hopefully. Hopefully? No, you don't say that unless something bad is going to happen, and something bad does happen. We learn in chapter 8 that, yes, Basma comes back, and she explains to Chase, I'm so sorry. I mean, quote, your mother's gone, Chase. She died. I can't believe it. I'm just so sorry. Now, when we're thinking about what's going on here, clearly we're of the opinion that this was accidental. I asked my students, they had referenced, one of my students had said, remember that her mother had said to Chase that she was rescued by the humans. They're good, right? And maybe she was already sick. We alluded to many times before in our previous episode when her mother had specifically said, look to the sky, it will guide you. And again, the author doesn't bring this up or say this early on in the book unless you know that something's going to happen to mom. And most of the students, no doubt, felt it was accidental. There was surgery. A couple students brought up, she probably had to go in for surgery. And surgeries, things bad can happen in surgery. And she didn't come out of it correct. Another student said that she had died from age, and a few students had pushed back on that and said, no. And I don't necessarily agree with that opinion. And another student said, well, maybe that Chase's mom had a tumor. And again, this is all great. We elicit so many different opinions, and that's what's great about talking about a book, and you get a window into the students' critical thinking. But I push back on that as well because, listen, maybe they clearly could have found that out after she was rescued. We don't know what her injury was. We don't know to what extent, why she was rescued and what happened. But, obviously, they could have found that she had a tumor, and that's why she went in for an operation. But maybe we're thinking, no, that her injury was still intact from the rescue, and this was why they had to go in. But I really do think that the students' insight was good, right? Why are you going to go in and operate on a wild animal unless it's really bad, unless they found a tumor? Sure. I mean, really good thinking. I disagreed with it, but keep this in mind. If the author wanted to elicit that, I had an injury and that I need to get something fixed and the humans are going to help me and they're going to do some surgery for me, you would think that Chase's mom would have said this to Chase, right? So again, all good thinking. Prior to this chapter, again, for my listeners to the podcast, with this particular book, you're going back and forth. Each chapter, one chapter's on Finnegan, and we still don't know that this is Finnegan. It's just a dog. But we go back and forth between the dog and Chase. And the previous chapter was all about the dog going to the vet's office. We learned then in chapter 9 that the man is named Ryan. That's my son's name. So I'm immediately perking up here. And certainly, we've talked about this so often. When you're reading, anytime you have any connections to your life, you're going to be more attuned to what's going on. You're going to be more interested. Hey, if it's a name that I can hardly pronounce, which happens so often, it's going to be tough for me to get through. But Ryan, no, I'm right there. So nothing really happens in this chapter other than the fact that this dog is deciding, yes, he smells like hamburger, Ryan that is, and I'm just going to follow him. As we go into the next chapter, what's happening? Yeah, she's not eating. Chase, of course. Why would you want to eat? You're just so upset, and this is what's happening. And she remembers. Chase remembers what her mother said to her. Be brave. I'm proud of you. She finally starts drinking milk from the bottle that Basma gives her. And I want to stop here just for a moment. I'm in New Jersey. There's a zoo called the Turtleback Zoo, and there is a cheetah and a dog who live together as of the recording of this episode just before the summer of 2026. Yeah, they're still there. So I wonder if Jasmine Warga is inspired or was inspired by these two, if not certainly the fact that a cheetah can get along with a dog. Are you kidding me? So we're now into chapter 11. It's called The House. It's page 54. And we finally get the name of Finnegan. Why? Because I found you, as Ryan relays the story here, I found you on Finnegan's trail. And prior to this, I actually, as I'm reading it to the class, I'm saying, oh, they're going to name the dog, right? And I just threw it out. I mean, we all knew the dog's name was going to be Finnegan, but what would you name the dog? And I threw out the question to the class, and we got Jack, we got Laddie, we got Bob. Everyone laughed when the student said Bob. And one thing also, what's interesting that I asked the students, here we're into the book, 50 pages. We've got a good sense of both of them. Who do you like better? What chapters are you more interested in listening to? The chapters with Chase or Finnegan? And it was right down the middle. 10 chose Chase, 9 chose Finnegan. I mean, me? Yeah, it's got to be Finnegan. I got too much of connections to dogs, and you know, the wild animal and the idea about a cheetah really having thoughts like a dog. I don't know. Obviously, there's no reason why they can't, but I'm a Finnegan guy. So here we are, chapter 11. It's a long chapter. Not much is happening. And then page 60. He's there, Finnegan with Ryan. They're getting used to each other. Quote, the flower's sense grows and grows. He's smelling flowers. Finnegan turns his head and spots a woman who has just entered the room. What happens? Who is this? This woman puts out her hand, as the author writes, palm down, offering it to him. I'm Basma. It's so nice to meet you, Finnegan. Basma, we've got now the two worlds coming together, and you know they're colliding. Amazing. And I will say this, immediately we had this connection as a whole class. The fact that I've read she spots a woman who has just entered the room. We visually pictured that, and most of us went to the story that I had told my students all about Harriet Tubman. She went back, risked her life to go back to get her husband after she had escaped. And what happened? Another woman walked into the room. Her husband had decided to remarry. Her husband wasn't going to go back with her. It is so amazing, and it's those great moments when you're reading out loud a story when you immediately, we all end up having a connection to another. In this case, it's just another story, and it's a true story. It wasn't exactly the same, but it was just that moment of entering the room. It was such a surprise, and here we are. Finnegan is doubting everything. Does he want to stay? New owners, new situation, and now you have someone other than Ryan. But at the end of the day, as the chapter ends, he's given some food, and of course, he goes right to the food. Maybe it won't be too bad after all. So as we're going into the next chapter with Chase, this is chapter 12. Let me tell you, there's not a lot happening. And each chapter you can pick out, yes, something advances the plot. But I'm saying this to the class, and the class agrees. It's too boring. There's nothing happening. And I will say this as well. I'm sorry, but I'm just throwing out my observations, my thoughts. It's not that well written. Yes, it flows well. There's nothing choppy. There's nothing I'm saying, wow, this is really not good writing. But there's nothing that jumps off the page. In fact, there's one place that I noticed, actually a couple places I'll talk about, that was a nice line. I mean, again, it's nothing like Linda Mulaney Hunt. If you know her, some of my favorite books, Fish in the Tree, by far one of the best books I've ever read, is One for the Murphys. She also had written Shouting at the Rain. These were books, and I know I'm digressing here, but understand this. These are books where you have a line that jumps off the page, almost every single page, great metaphors. You just stand back and you just say, wow, this is what I aspire to be a great writer, and you learn, right? This is just nothing but a story, and when nothing's happening, we're not happy. Here was one line on page 64 I thought was okay. She moves like a hurricane, opening and shutting doors. This is when Basma's looking for a big bag of kibble. And then on page 66, the author writes, quote, she is good at anticipating Chase's wants and needs. Every day, Chase can feel her trust in Basma growing, swelling up like a cloud gathering rain. Really? It doesn't work? And again, I'm sorry, but listen, you absolutely get spoiled with certain writers, certain books, and then you expect more from others. But there's no doubt that this narrative can be moving a lot quicker. We all agree. So what do we get from this chapter? Yeah, we find out that there's something that's going to happen. Well, I hope you're going to be ready for next spring. And, there's going to be hopefully lots of people in the bleachers. So what clearly can we infer? That Chase may be, and obviously Basma is part of some type of show where the cheetah will be a part of, and maybe it's a circus, maybe it's some kind of performance, traveling road show. We don't know, but what we do know is that, again, can we just get the story going? And I will tell you, the best moment of the story happened, and it wasn't anything to do with the author and how the author's writing the story and progressing the plot. Basma comes out and basically gives a stuffed toy rabbit to Chase. And immediately I'm like, they say, well, how about Fluffy? And Chase is like, no. So at that moment, right there and then, I threw out the question to the class. So what do you think? What do you think they're going to name this little stuffed animal? And we all, of course, then went to Punch the Monkey, who had this orangutan toy, and a bunch of the kids brought that up. And I was thinking, wait a minute, no, there's no way that they made this connection or they brought that into the book because of Punch the Monkey. It actually had gone viral in the beginning of 2026, and this book was just published and brought out to the stores in May of 2026, I believe. So I don't think the author got it from there. But nevertheless, here's my point. One of the students actually guessed out loud that the stuffed animal rabbit's name was Bun Bun. And like, no, we're on our jaws are to the floor. Everyone came up to me. They wanted to see it. I said, here it is. Look, it's in the book, Bun Bun. They all ran up. They wanted to see it in print. And sure enough, it was really a funny moment in our class. So as we wrap up this particular podcast episode, we're now in chapter 13, and it's called Settling In. And again, nothing's happening other than the fact that we are certainly rooting here for Finnegan. He goes back to the fact that, he remembers, quote, that he's not actually a very good boy. We don't know what happened with Samuel, but clearly we learn that he's afraid of the thunder, and he rips up a pillow. And although it was written in such a way, it was so quick. So wait a minute, did this happen just now when the thunder roared, or did it happen before? But nevertheless, he's getting upset. Is he going to be kicked out again? Will Ryan still trust him and like him for not, quote unquote, being a good boy? And you're really feeling for Finnegan. But the bottom line is nothing's happening. Some thunder rolls. He's afraid. Come on, let's get going. So as you can sense, I'm not that thrilled with this book. I'm surprised that it was so well received. But again, I've talked about it all the time. There's beginning, middle, and end. But we're here in the middle. Beginning wasn't that great. And now we're starting to head into the middle. And the middle's not too good. I sure hope as we wrap up this book that it can be a page turner. But for next episode, episode 3, book 8, here's what you want to do. You want to read from page 84 through page 160, chapter 14 through chapter 25. And then the last episode for this particular book will have it be from 26 right through, chapter 26 right through the end of the book, which is basically 161 through page 219. Friends, I hope you've enjoyed, even though, hey, listen, no book is going to be that fantastic, but I hope you've enjoyed my commentary. Come back with us so we can continue to talk about this book, The Unlikely Tale of Chase and Finnegan by Jasmine Warga. Reach out to me at kevmok21@gmail.com. Definitely your thoughts. Do you disagree? Anything that you want to add that I forgot in this particular episode? We have a Facebook group. We have a YouTube channel. And certainly to get the podcast delivered to your phone automatically every time every episode is released, hit that plus button. I love reviews. I love ratings. And again, just so you remember, if you're coming back and listening to our book series, our stories, it's more than that. It's also tons of different topics. I hope you enjoy the podcast. And until next time, have fun and keep learning.